I'm interested in conceptualizing and distributing OERs on metacognition. I work in the Department of Secondary Education at the university there, and this whole interest in doing this has come about for a number of reasons. So first of all, you might ask, what is metacognition? And metacognition is what we know about how we control and our awareness of our cognitive and strategic processes that we and others use when we think and learn. And we know that it's an important factor. It's one of the most studied pieces in psychology, in educational psychology. And we know that when we develop and enhance students' metacognition, that they learn better. And it's always been said that developing the students' metacognition is a really important educational goal. But we don't seem to do enough of it. And this is what worries me. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, the problem for me is that, we've known about it and its importance since the 1970s. But like a lot of good stuff that research has done, it remains locked in books and journals and behind publisher firewalls and pay-for-access subscriptions. And if you're in the library, you know how expensive these things are. And we all regularly get emails from Springer and places like that, and they say, it's only $138 and we'll give you $10 off. And that sort of adds up to a lot after a while. And so it's not a good situation for education, for public education, for any education. And what we find is that we have publicly funded research findings and ideas, educational development being hidden from the public. So this is really my stimulus for doing this. I may have come to the game a little bit late, but I've always been fairly passionate about this. So what I'm doing is I'm setting up an integrated network of sites as a means of disseminating what I've learned since 1985. And that's when I first heard the term. I was an undergraduate student back in Australia, and the science education person came in and said, there's this thing called metacognition out there, and I've been interested in it ever since. I'm still doing my academic writing, but I'm looking for ways to make mine and others' work on metacognition more accessible for wider audiences and increasingly beyond the academy. This is a jerry-rigged diagram. I did it because I had to put something down to show you what's happening inside my head here. It's sort of like a production distribution plan. And if you look at it, and you can see in the middle there's the ERA, and off to the left of the ERA, there's a podcast, and it's called the Metacognition Channel, and it's on a platform called Podbean. And you can see I've got my U of A web page, which allows us free access, and you can put things in your email signature to direct traffic towards various places. And if you go down to underneath the podcasting, there's a thing, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, those sorts of things. Over on the right-hand side, there's Google Scholar. And then there's a web domain. I own the web domain now, metacognition.ca. And I'm in the process of setting up the web page. And I'm probably going to go with Squarespace, I think, which is going to be my host and where I locate my pages. And if you look on the bottom there, you'll see that there's other distribution means. There's the social share, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Tumblr, and then there's a whole range of podcast apps. So I'm sort of trying to build this platform, this network, where I can get stuff out almost at no cost. The website hosting costs money. The domain name costs $60 US a year, and my podcast channel costs me $108 a year, but I can get it back on my PER, so I'm not too worried about that. So here is the Metacognition channel on Podbean, and I've got 3 episodes up there, and as of today's date, I have 292 downloads. And I can tell you that those 292 downloads are from 25 countries. Some countries I would never have known that there was ever anyone interested in metacognition at all, but there you go. And what I do is I put an episode up here, and then I put a transcript. If you can go to the next slide, please. I put a transcript of the episode up on the ERA at the university, which has a DOI. It's free access, and so people anywhere can go to the Podbean channel, can get the URL or DOI, plug it into their computer, and download a transcript of the episode. Now, it works out that about 6 pages of 12-point font on letter-sized paper is about 30 minutes, which is about the right size for a podcast. You don't want to bore everyone to death with stuff on metacognition. And so last night I was up at till 12:30 recording the next episode, which will probably go live in the next couple of days. So this, you can see how there's this integrated approach that I'm trying to get at, where I've got stuff going on. And once I get my web page up, which is sort of in beta form now, which will be up at the end of April, and I'll be directing people from my web page to the ERA, to the podcast site, to my university website, et cetera, and it's costing them, well, it's costing me time, but it's actually costing them pretty much nothing to be able to access this information. And the writing part of it that goes into the ERA, it has a DOI, people can access it, people can cite it. It hasn't been peer reviewed. People can do that if they want, but I don't see that as the real point here. This is accessible information based on what current research is there, what I've done, et cetera. And I think it's a really worthwhile way to try to get the message out there, because it's an important thing. And in teacher education courses, we don't get enough time to actually teach about these types of things in our classes. And, you know, where did the idea of the podcast come from? There's a session on at 2:00. I saw on the stuff today. There's a session on 2:00 about podcasting for education. The idea of the podcast came about because I was interviewed by Neil Hovey in CTL about 12 months ago on metacognition in higher education. And that podcast that he and I put together has had over 1,400 downloads, which is a lot of downloads. And so it's sort of been, I think it's the second most popular one on the CTL site there. And then following on from that, Debbie Feist, who I think is in the audience here today, and I and Virginia Powell, we got a small tea leaf grant, which we put together on doing how to teach students about how to think when they do citations. And so we did that, and we've got a couple of articles out there. Thank you. We've got a couple of articles out there being reviewed at the moment based on the research that we did on that. So, you know, I think podcasting, web-based stuff, and developing some sort of integrated approach to the way that you get stuff out that is locked behind firewalls. And so the article I reviewed yesterday, or I spent a lot of time, comes from 1997. And it's a really important article, but you can't get hold of it because it's stuck somewhere where people can't access it. So, you know, that's what I'm trying to do at the moment. I'm on sabbatical, and I hope that when I come back on July the 1st, supposedly as department chair, I'll have enough time to continue with this. So thank you very much, everybody.